Hello and welcome to this tutorial / example demonstration, whatever you want to call it. This is really a follow-up for the Shane Inner Circle members on Facebook. I don't want to come across combative. That wasn't my intention. So I apologise if that's the way it's come across. I really just wanted to get across the context of what I was doing the other day. So this is Adam Roberts. He's a commercial director in London from South Africa. He's a great guy. And we were just doing some testing after one of our shoots to see what kind of exposure we could get from London using the FS5 in its higher frame rate modes, which comes from the FS RAW. We already kind of think that the internal XAVC maybe isn't really up to it. I mean, it's great, but shooting log at night is probably not a great idea. I mean, to be fair, it's not terrible. It still looks good, but it's not the same as the FS RAW capture. The setup is an Odyssey 7Q, and the Odyssey 7Q takes the FS RAW and debayers it to ProRes. For these tests, nothing special. We debayered to ProRes proxy, so I wasn't picking even LT. It was just really low. The original shot is 4K. Is that right? Yep, 24 frames per second. Is that right? Okay, yeah. And this one, yeah, 24 frames. So let's have a quick check here. We was also looking at doing some high speed stuff, hence the frame rate being 24. We wanted to see if we had any light flicker issues from being in the 60 Hertz mode on the FS5, which gives us access to 120 frames and 240 frames in 2K, whereas when we're in 50 Hertz we have access to 100 frames and 200 frames in 2K. And to be fair, we did get some slight discrepancies when shooting high speed. I mean, shooting regular 24 here, there was no issues, but on Adam's face here in the 120 frames per second modes, we started to see flicker. So that'll be the second shot. So it's the first. So it's this one here. If I just put that at the end, you'll see what I mean. Let's go here. Let's get rid of that. And there it is. See that flicker there? It's very slight, but it is there. We then switch back to a different mode. Let's say probably this one. I think this is the one. So then we switched to 50 Hertz just to satisfy ourselves. As you can see, this is still 24 frames. Is that right? Let's have a quick check here. Well, it could be what the Odyssey. Maybe I didn't change the Odyssey project settings. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, because with the Odyssey can have its own project settings, so it can take the input frame rate and it can conform it on the fly. It's an amazing device. So I must not have changed that. I mean, it was a very cold, rushed test. But anyway, just to not answer the critics, I wouldn't say you guys were criticising or anything like that. I think you had a different approach to myself, and I felt like you misunderstood the whole purpose of a test. So I'm only a cinematographer. I'm not a director, and I'm not a colorist. I'm a cinematographer, and I treat my light meter as a compass. And when I'm testing, I can't go in a different route from that. I just can't. Otherwise, there's no point in me testing. So, when I was on the set, we had with the 7Q we could monitor we could monitor the FS5's output pull down 1 or 2 stops. Actually, we could go down to -5 stops. For really, pull down levels, but and I do quite like that look there's a new film out called Arrival that has a similar approach. They're using negative gain, and then they're lighting for negative gain, which is giving them incredibly clean dark shadows, and they're tipping right on the edge of their highlight headroom, and it looks beautiful. It's really clean. It's like pastel-y almost. It's got such a lovely texture to it. But being in the middle of London, I can't do that. Right, so one guy, I think Patrick, no disrespect to you at all. Patrick was asking about lighting ratios. Lighting ratios is where you compare two lights. Simple as that. I don't have two lights to compare. I'm metering this light here. There's nothing I can do about that background light, and it's digital capture. So I'm only looking to see if this will blow out and I will lose detail. And as you can see, I haven't really lost any detail. I mean, it's an S-Log2 debayer of the linear raw. I would say 110, 109 is about here, and we're in range. I mean, it's very, very, yeah. I mean, it's just pretty simple stuff. The last thing I'm going to do on location in a test is apply negative fill with a bounce board, or like if I've got a reflector. I think we did have a reflector on us, and we whatever, I could have held that up and blocked some of the fill light coming onto Adam from here, and increase the contrast ratio between this light coming here and the fill light. But it's a test, so when you mentioned lighting ratios, I just felt that was a bit odd. It's quite simply a test. So a test for me, and I'll say it again, I take my light meter, I know my light meter backwards, I know my light meter of how it reacts with the FS5. I know the FS5 is off by a stop, so even though they say 3200 ISO, 3200 ISO with my Soconic light meter does not achieve middle grey. I trust my light meter because when I work with cameras like the Arri Alexa, the Arri Mirror, or even, actually I haven't really tested it with the Red, but with the Arri Alexa and the Arri Mirror, which I hold as the gold standard of digital capture, those cameras are spot on. If I take a reading with my light meter, it hits middle grey, bang on, which is for the Arri Mirror, for example, is 39.5%, depending on who you speak to. But Arri themselves, I'm pretty sure, say 39.5. So I trust my light meter, and my light meter, when I meter the FS5, is always a stop out. So if I meter at 3200 ISO, it's out by a stop. So metering at 1600 would be the equivalent of achieving native exposure with the FS5. I wanted to be overexposed, so I metered at 800 ISO, and I also had the speed booster attached to the camera, which gives us an extra stop of light. So in my head, I was getting 2 stops of exposure. 2 stops of exposure, but I didn't meter for 2 stops. I metered for 1. I metered at 800 ISO, which is 1 stop overexposed on the FS5, because 1600 is what the Soconic finds correct exposure of 32% middle grey on S-Log2 and 41% middle grey on S-Log3. Anyway, there's a lot of maths and numbers, but yeah, just to show you, nothing is clipped. I'm not raising this up in post or anything like that, and I'll just quickly show you my process. We'll take this shot here. Let's find a nice sharp frame about there. Again, really quick and dirty. I'm not even using DaVinci. I can use DaVinci. I bought Color Finale on the Black Friday sales, and that's why I used it. And I'm also going to show you that you can achieve that darker look if that's what you're after. As I was saying in the forum, you can achieve that silhouette, that darker look in grading, but you wouldn't do that on location. You wouldn't limit the amount of light the camera could see in a low light scenario. You just wouldn't. You're asking for problems. You're asking for trouble. I would meter negative gain in low light to try and achieve that look. So I would monitor, say, a 2 or 3 stop pull of the image sensor, and then light that. So the background would be treated at -2, -3, but we would have maybe like a Rotolight ANOVA battery powered light that we would bring the subject up. Maybe we would just reinforce the lighting coming from one side, rather than the fill. It depends, but it's totally achievable. But my point is that you wouldn't do that on set. If you do that on set, you are asking for trouble. You're asking for noise. You're asking for low bit depth when it comes to skin tones and tonality in general. Quite simply. So anyway, I've enough rambling. So my first process with this was to, and this is pointless. Yeah, everyone will point out this is pointless. So I'm taking S-Log2 over to S-Log3. That's the first LUT. Okay, the second LUT is going to take the exposure down. So if I go to my exposure compensation, these LUTs, they don't transform the gamma, they don't transform, all they transform is gamma, so they just pull the gamma down, but they do it correctly, they do it mathematically via LUTs. The LUTs are built in LUT calculator, nothing special, so it's not my interpretation, it's nothing like that, or anything, right? So we'll go for -1, so this is what I metered for, okay? Apply, and then the second LUT, the third LUT is Bert's LUT, which is, I haven't added it to there, still in the default cubes. Let's have a quick check. Yeah, and I think I went for, yeah, S-Log3, ARRI 709 balanced. Apply. So this is the LUT. This is the look. Have I got that right? Yeah, I think I have, yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, no, I have, yeah. This is it. It already looks pretty dark, doesn't it? I would maybe just, I think I've got these LUTs the wrong way around, maybe. Let's have a look, it looks like they're clipping. Let's get rid of that. Let's have a look. So, S-Log2 to S-Log3, S-Log3 -1. No, that's it, that's correct, yeah. I'll just take, so Command copy. Command copy. Why is that not working? Oh, Command copy. I'm doing Shift Command copy. Let's bring this over here. Let's find a nice clean frame. It's probably there. Just going to paste the effects straight across. Don't really care about that. Paste. And then here's what I metered on set. So there you go. Now, can you go darker than this? Yeah, you can. Of course you can. Are the levels clipped? No. I mean, they're obviously, like, some of them are sharpening up. But yeah, so you want to go darker? Of course, no problem. So I'm going to pick the exposure compensation. I'll bring that down another stop. Go to S-Log exposure, -2. Apply. That's 2 stops. Oh, that's the wrong one. S-Log3 -2. Sorry, that's my fault. There you go. It's a bit brighter. That for me is just getting way too dark. But one guy in particular, I can't remember his name, he said you could pull a secondary. So this is not me pulling a secondary with a window or anything, but I mean, I could, just like the guy said, we could just lift the shadows a little bit. Maybe just a tad. Maybe pull the mids down a little bit, I don't know. So there is a bit more detail here, and it's, you've got that dark sky that you guys are on about. But yeah, as I said, you can definitely achieve that in grading, 100%. But you just wouldn't do it on set. And for me, I was on set. I was doing a test. I took a meter reading, and I followed that meter reading all the way through post. I mean, to be fair, once the contrast ratio increased because we got closer to the darker subject, I wouldn't say this shot would benefit from being pulled down again. So the active LUT is -1. I'm going to change it to -2. Apply. I would say that's way too dark. If I push the thing is we're lifting everything then, So even if we push the mids up instead, I don't know. I mean, Oh, no, I'm clipping blacks there. Ooh. See, you can tell I'm not a colorist. But yeah, so that's it. That's my process. So the main thing really is that for people that were concerned about the background, of course you can pull it down. I mean, if you're in Resolve and you're using the log controls, you can really get in there and just manipulate those highs and lows. And if you're doing a narrative project, which I might well do in London, I wouldn't say this is a bad look. I think this looks awesome, really. The colour's really rich. It's very contrasty, very crunchy. It doesn't look like video to me. Well, of course it looks like video, but it doesn't look like bad video. It doesn't look like a GH4 or something. No disrespect to GH4 owners before you freak out. So yeah, S-log3-2. So yeah, I mean, obviously in a wide shot when there's a lot more going on, it's a bit more acceptable, absolutely. But for the close-up, it's not the same. And the thing is that when you might say that, well, okay, well then for the close-up you just change your log, change your process. This is actually the same shot. This is just me. This looks stupid, but if I just increase this out to there, this is me. So this is how quick and rough this test is. This is me, film the guy coming across. I think it's all handheld. Run in, pull focus, and then he walks off. That was it. It's just really, really crappy run and gun for a test. So yeah, so it is actually technically the same shot. So if this was if this was a Steadicam gimbal or a gimbal shot or something, or just something on a slider or a dolly, I would definitely go in the direction of lighting him over changing the exposure, the film speed in post, because that's essentially what this LUT is doing here. This LUT is changing the film speed. It's pulling it down. It's the same as it's the same process as what guys used to do with film, or still do with film. So they would take their 500, their 250 rated stock or their 500 rated stock. They'd push it and outside to get more light into the shadows, because they know they can hang on to those higher tones, and then they would print it down in the lab. And then when they work inside, they would take that same 500 stock, and they would expose higher at 100 or 150 or something like that ISO, in order to, I think I've done that the wrong way around, haven't I? Yeah. So they would take the 500 stock outside, rate it higher to underexpose the stock, then push it and print it up in the lab in order to get more dynamic range out of the sky. And then inside they would take the same 500 stock and they would overexpose it by metering at a lower ISO, and then they would print up in stock, print up in the lab. That's essentially what we're doing here. Taking a metered exposure, a mathematical exposure, and then coming into post and processing the negative to what I saw on the day, and this is what I saw on the day, And the thing is it's for commercial application. Let's give it that. It is for I mean, we'll be selling the city, we'll be selling the person, we'll be selling the lifestyle. We'll be hiring models, so their skin, their skin tone, what they're wearing, the makeup that we've paid for, all of that's going to be important, and it's going to be needed to be seen. And personally, I quite like the way that the noise pollution from the city is creating a glow, creating a glow here. I mean, that for me is pretty cool. In a weird way, it's backlit Adam without backlighting. I mean, none of that light over here is reaching him, but it's cut him out from the backgrounds, and that's technically what we would do, just to show you some of the other shots. I mean, I think I processed this. So we had just to show you that it is, the idea is that it's a commercial thing. Look at this shot here. We just took an object, which was my watch, and let's take this one. paste. Controls and move it on -2. Oh yeah, so this is now 100 frames per second. So 100 frames per second required a shutter speed that was 1 stop slower. So I could no longer meter at the rating that I wanted to meter at. So I don't have. There's no point in this LUT. There's no point in this exposure compensation. So I'll switch that off. So that's the exposure that I went for on on set. This might be the exposure that some people are suggesting. I would definitely say the skin tone in his hand probably looks right here, without a doubt. But I don't know, it just seems really, really crunchy and dark to me. But again, yeah, it's not a conversation of whether this is right or this is wrong. This is what I did on set, and I'm just staying true to what I did on set. That's it. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful for some people, even for people that weren't involved on SIC. If you're just looking at things and how to test and what have you, you do need rules for testing. You need to give yourself something, some sort of control measure. My control measure was always going to be, my light meter, and that's it. And I'm not going to deviate from that. And the results I'm going to post are not going to be results that I've then manipulated in post. I was very honest and clear that I had applied noise reduction, even though it's probably not needed. I mean, there's no noise reduction been applied here. I think the level pull is helping it out, whereas with some of the 100 frames per second stuff that I didn't show, that did benefit from a little bit of noise reduction. And it gave us a good indication of what we can achieve and what we can't achieve when we go for this, when we go for these projects. You know what I mean? And that's really its key. It really is about knowing what we can achieve where we are, and the light meter for us is that guiding tool. It's the one that tells us, yeah, this is fine. You've got this. You know, it's all fine. And this for me is great. I mean, I expect this to overexpose. I see detail in this building. I can see the differentiation between the different floors. I think that's probably the sign that's on the building. You know, the one that says this, that, and the other, or whatever. I don't even know what it is, to be honest. But you can see, you know, some offices are brighter than others, and I can't help that. I'm not going to bring this entire building down because of this and this. You know, I mean, for me, this is the overall texture. And the thing is that, you know, as I said, it's not that you can't bring that down and make it look the way you want it to look. I just had to be honest to what I did when I was on set, on location. Sorry, you know, and on location, that's the decision I made, and there it is. You know, there's the thing. As much as this looks great, this Adam for me is too dark. You know, it's too low. We could definitely pull secondaries on that, like people said. You know, pull out your skin tone and what have you. But to be fair, I mean, once we get into this, we're going to take lights with us. We're going to take, you know, real simple lighting package, and we can bring people up anyway. And so this will probably be the process we go for. I mean, I always try to overexpose S-Log by 2 stops, but I don't know. I'm just being very, very, very honest. You know, this isn't the exposure I went for. The other exposure is what I went for. And that's what I posted, and I'm just, you know, trying to maintain a bit of integrity there. You know, I'm not trying to pretend that I went for this. I also think this is too dark. I mean, for me, this is too dark. I mean, from a commercial application, I want to be able to see what he's wearing. I know he's wearing black clothes at night, but this could be a dark burgundy dress or something. You know, it could be, you know, it could be a winter puffer jacket or something like that, and that's the whole point of the piece. You know, we can't come back with muddy colours because we've underexposed while on location. But anyway, I hope that's helped. It's one hell of a rant, and that's it. See you guys.